Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friendly Show. I am your host and friend, Lee. Okay, so I am really excited about this episode. And that's why I didn't want to cancel yesterday and I just switched it to a new time. So, for those of you that are here and rearrange your schedules for this to be here live, thank you, thank you, thank you. If this is your first time watching The Friendly Show, hello. And if you're confused because you saw us streaming on First Day Pod, you are in the right place. And Mike and I talked about it, and we are definitely going to be doing a podcast together for First Day Pod next week. So we will see you then. But I wanted to make sure that for all of you guys that do follow us, that you had at least me here. So I should have done this earlier. I am going to just get rid of my Wi-Fi and make sure that we are completely connected. I should have done that sooner. Sorry. Okay, and if this is your first time watching The Friendly Show, this is not your typical podcast. So the way that we work here is I always want you to imagine that you came into my living room. I invited you over just for a little get together. And it's me. I've got a couple friends. You brought a couple of your friends maybe. And we're going to talk about, let's picture that you're coming into the living room and we're having a conversation about a certain topic. If you are my friend and you've been around me for any amount of time, you know that the conversation will start in one spot. And before you know it, it'll veer off into a bunch of different areas. And so that's probably what's going to happen here. But what we've started in the last couple months is having kind of a theme for the month. And then each week looking at that theme through the lens of happiness, but with a little bit more focus on a certain area. So this month we've been talking about mindfulness, and today we are going to be talking about mindfulness during intense fear. And for those of you that are part of the Friendly Show Facebook group, you know that I had a big thing that I did on Saturday that I'm really, really, really proud of. And I actually wasn't proud of it as soon as I did it. But now in retrospect, I am. And that's going to sound odd once you know the story, but we're going to go through that today. And I want to talk about how I was able to use mindfulness for that. And my favorite part of the show is because we do this live every week. So normally we are recording live. So if you're listening to this in the audio version as an actual podcast, know that you can come over to YouTube or Twitch, the Friend Lee Show, and Lee is spelled Leigh. And you can come over every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time and be a part of it. And as soon as there's a comment, I just bring it right up on the screen, and now you're part of the show. So it's kind of cool. So here's what's happened. Um, I am petrified of heights, and actually, I'm trying to change that. I don't want to say I am because I really don't want that to be part of my identity anymore. But I have struggled in the past with heights, and Friday here was just an example. Friday, we needed to get something from the top. Now I only have an 8-foot ceiling in the kitchen, and so the cabinets are not that high, and I just needed to get something from the top shelf. So I got just a chair that I could go stand on and lean on the countertop and get the thing off of the very top shelf and come back down. Pretty easy. For me, it was my heart started pounding. I started getting anxiety. I got really scared. Have always struggled with heights, even just that high. To the point that when I was leaning on the countertop and I came back down, I was like, is the chair still there? And I was freaking out because I didn't think I had solid ground underneath me. And that was Friday, just as an example. This happens to me all the time. And then Saturday, I rappelled off of a 14-story building on the outside, strapped in, harnessed in safely. But it was very fascinating to me, the whole experience. So I'm going to get into that. Okay, here we go. So because we switched, I wasn't sure if we were going to have some listeners, but we do. So awesome. So Britt is here, Pops421, and says, Morning, morning. Congratulations. I watched the video, wasn't expecting the music, and choked up. Oh, you're so sweet. He said, laugh out loud. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to tell the story on the show. And Rohan, hello, honey. She's here too. Okay, so awesome. Now I feel like I can get in my groove. I'm not sitting in the living room by myself. Um, Ooh, Mel is here too. Her phone is charging. Okay, that's fine. Perfect. Just if you can put in there like B or M, depending on where the comment is coming. Although I feel like I know you guys enough now that I'm gonna kind of know who's saying what, but we'll see. Anyway, so here's what happened. About a month ago, no, actually, it might be 2 months ago, my financial advisor, reached out and was like, "Hey, guess what? So I'm gonna be doing this thing. I'm gonna be rappelling off of a 14-story building." Uh, Britt says, "And your earrings are very happy. Good for you." Yeah, aren't they cute? Look, they're little hearts. Thank you. Okay, so also if you're listening to this in the audio version, you're missing out. These are really cute earrings. Okay, so anyway, so about 2 months ago, my financial advisor was like, "Yep, so for we're going to be doing a fundraiser. We're raising money for cancer and for the Windsor Cancer Foundation, actually, which is a really, really good cause. What they do for patients that are going through cancer is just remarkable. And so I donated, right? We donated to him and it was like, "Oh my gosh, you're crazy." Like, but immediately when I donated, I was like, "Oh, that sounds really cool." Even though I'm petrified, I was like, "That is going to be a really cool experience for him." But I kind of part of me was excited about like, should I do that? Because I have been on this thing and I keep saying that it's been like a year, but really it's probably been it could have been a decade that I've really been trying to do things that scare me, trying to do things outside my comfort zone. I mean, I've been doing the cold showers, which sound silly, but unless you've done them, they are hard. And I've been doing that for well over a decade. And every single time that I do it, every single morning, it's like I have to talk myself into it. But um, so anyway, so I was like, "Oh, that sounds really cool." And then life, just happened and I kept going and blah, blah, blah. And then this guy reaches out to me that I've known through networking and we're, associates, kind of friends, but we don't really hang out. He reaches out to me. He's like, "Hey, you've got a pretty good social following," which made me laugh because I don't feel like I do. But he's like, "Would you mind sharing my link? I'm going to be rappelling off of a building and I really need to." So in order to rappel off the building, you had to raise $1,500 worth of donations for the foundation. So he's like, "I really want to do it, but I'm not getting the donations. I need your help. Could you please do it?" So as soon as he did it, as soon as he said that, I was like, shoot, now this is a second person that I personally know that's going to be doing this. So I asked myself, how are you going to feel the day that everybody starts posting that they did it? How are you going to feel that you did not do it? And I did not like the feeling. I did not like the answer. And so immediately I said, "Hey, man, I'm actually considering doing it. So give me a minute. Let me think about it. And if I sign up, obviously I'll be using my own link to try to get donations. Um, but if not, then yes, I will help you out." So that was 2 weeks before the event. And now I have to raise $1,500, which I thought would be kind of difficult because I had just raised, and none of this is to like be like, "Oh, way to go, Leanne." Like, this is all for like our community and my circle of people that are just like loving and caring and amazing. So I would have to raise $1,500. And then I had just raised $3,000 for Crohn's and colitis, which is my main charity. Crohn's and colitis has always been, well, not always, but ever since my sister got diagnosed with Crohn's, we almost lost her, blah, blah, blah. It has been top charity for me. So although I donate to various charities throughout the year, every month there's a new charity that I'm trying to do something for. Crohn's is the number one, and that's where all of my real energy goes. And so that walk was on June 2nd, and so it was, like, just, like, a week and a half maybe after that, that I was like, "Oh, shoot, now I gotta raise 1,500." So, I reached out to a friend of mine, Heather Chauvin. Hello, Heather, just in case you're watching this. Um, and I reached out to her. She was an ambassador. There were 4 or 5 ambassadors, so they were survivors that were kind of, the face of this campaign, and it was called Show Us Your Brave campaign. So I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, so are you still looking for people for your team?" Because she wanted to raise $10,000, her team. And so she was like, "Yeah, yeah, for sure." And I was like, "Okay, I know." And I told her all the things. "I know that we're only 2 weeks out. I don't know if I'll be able to raise the 1,500, but I'm willing to try and I would love to be able to conquer my fear." So she said, "Sure, let's do it." And you guys, I did it. So with the help of you guys, I raised $1,500 in less than 2 weeks, and I was able to repel. So, here are all of the things that I did in those 2 weeks. Now, that was like a benefit that it was only 2 weeks because the mind games that I went through were all within that little window. Thank goodness, because if it was for the full 2 months, who knows what would have happened? Mind you, would have been talking about it on the show a lot more. So, Rohan says, maybe Peter Parker can help with heights, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. There was a guy there actually that dressed up as Spider-Man. And when I went in, I walked in like to the registration booth or whatever, and I had like what was I wearing? I was wearing just kind of like a black shirt and black pants. And but I was wearing a tutu. And she goes, "Oh, look at you. It's so cute that you dressed up. That's so awesome." And they're like, and I said, "Yeah, I just thought I would do a little something." And then she said something about Spider-Man. She goes, "The only other thing I could think of is if you came with like a Spider-Man costume." And I was like, so this was not very positive of me to say, but I was like, the reason why I didn't want to dress up as Spider-Man is because in case I can't do it, I didn't want to let the children down. So at that point, as I'm registering, I'm still not 100% sure that I'm going to be able to do this. But I'm 99% sure. I'm like, I've done this and I have become the type of person, and this one's key, you guys. I have become the type of person that keeps my promise to myself. And that is new-ish for me. That is something that I've been working on for a couple years. And the last 6 months, I'd say it has been extreme that like no more snoozing for my alarm. I get up when I say I'm going to get up. I do what I say I'm going to do. And it's really easy for me anyway to do what I say I'm going to do for others. But for me to do what I said I like in my heart, what I was going to do for myself, it's a whole nother thing because then other people come into play. Oh, this is more important, work's more important, family's more important, all this stuff is more important than me. And for the last 6 months, I would say has been like the real game changer for me that I've become a person that does what she says that she's going to do. And I keep my promises to myself. So that was like the number one thing that has definitely got me over the edge. Okay. And like in a good way, right? Like over the edge of the building. So Pop says, I understand embedded fear, but I don't have any. Really? Okay. So, Britt, tell me about that. Have you ever had fear of anything? Like anything? Well, I guess maybe not flying, but like anything, or Mel, if you're listening, because I'm guessing that this is Brit. I'm guessing this is not Mel. Um, Mel, do you notice anything that maybe Brit has as a fear that it's in his blind spot that he's not recognizing? Fascinating. That's really interesting. Um, so, the number one thing was that is the type of person that I have become, and it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that I want to get up every morning when the alarm goes off. It doesn't mean that I want to do the workout that I said I was going to do. It doesn't mean that I want to do these things, but it means that I hold myself as high of a priority as I do work and family and friends. So, that's the number one. Now, mindfulness, this is huge. This is really being in the moment, and that's what helps you take the next step. So everything that we do. And really, I can't imagine a scenario where this statement is not going to be true, but everything we do is literally one step in front of the other. Like any moment that we have, I want you guys to really take this in and really consider this. Any moment that we are in, that is the only moment that we have, right? Like right now, as you're listening to this, this is the only moment that we have. So now that last moment that I was talking, that has passed. There's no way of getting it back. That doesn't exist anymore. The only thing that exists right now. We can think about the future and we can think about the fear and we can think about all that stuff. But as we're thinking about that and we're placing ourselves in that future moment, as we're thinking about that, this present moment is going away. So time will not stay still for us. And all of this, everything that I'm going to say in the show, I know for sure. And I have not planned anything. You guys know it's like literally you're on my couch and it's just like, here we go. But I know that everything that I'm going to say in this show is not going to be news. It's not going to be rocket science. It's not going to be epiphanies, except for it could be your epiphany. So I can't wait to get to a couple of the epiphanies that I had during this experience that were just like a duh. We know that. But I knew it, but I never knew it, if that makes sense to you. So I can't wait to get into all of this. And as I'm going, as you guys always know, as I'm going, if I have said that I'm going to talk about something in the future and then I did not talk about it, just like be like, hey, wait, I'm still hanging on the fact that you said you were going to talk about this and just let me know and I'll get back to that. Okay. Also, I'm going to leave the moment right now just to give the disclaimer that I give in every show that I am not a healthcare professional, nor do I pretend to be one. Everything that you listen to on this show is really for entertainment and for kind of education, right? So we're going to be talking about my experience with things that I have learned along the way. People that are listening to us, they're going to be sharing their experiences and the things that they know to be true as well. But it's not to say that anything that we're talking about is to be used for diagnosis or treatment. Use all of the things that you listen to at your own discretion. And if you feel like you resonate with something that you want to try or that you want to explore and you think it is something that you need a healthcare professional, please do not take that information lightly and take that to your personal healthcare professional. Okay, so there we go. Now, okay, so Britt says, I have natural respect for danger, but no phobias. Okay, that's very good. And that is something that I was thinking about too. So my mom is petrified of heights, like petrified. But my dad always makes the joke. Now, my dad's a big jokester. So, like, everything that he says is always like just funny. And, like he's the one that invented the majority of the dad jokes that you guys know. So he's always joking around. But so whenever my mom would say like, "Oh, I'm petrified of heights," he would be like, "I'm not afraid of heights, but I'm afraid of falling from heights." Like, so he's the same way that he doesn't have a phobia for heights. He can be on the top of, the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't matter. But he does have a natural respect for the fact that, if I do something silly, I could fall off of this and die, right? Like he has that natural. So that's a good way of saying it. Natural respect for danger. However, you have no phobias. That is fascinating. So Britt, you don't have any. Oh, hold on a second. There's one more thing. Mel said, I'm afraid of losing her. And I said that don't count as a phobia. It kind of does. It kind of is a little bit. Maybe it's not an actual phobia, but there is fear in that. So I don't know if that would be, attachment issues or I mean just love, which is awesome. So Mel, you're so sweet. But I find it fascinating, Britt, that you don't have any phobias. I'm curious if you've ever really thought about it that like when you hear other people say, "Oh, I'm afraid of heights," or "Oh, I'm claustrophobic," or "Oh, I don't want to be out in crowds," or "Oh, whatever, fill in the blank." Have you ever asked yourself like, "Wow, I don't really have anything. I wonder why that is?" Or maybe you had it before and now you've just learned to get through it. I don't know. I'm really curious why you think that you don't have any phobias, because I've never met anybody that doesn't have any phobias. Um, okay. So the mindfulness part, that was a big piece. So 2 weeks before I sign up for this rappelling off the building, I didn't really know what I was signing up for. I just did it, and I have a tendency to do that. And my girlfriend Heather, she said her husband called it um point aim shoot or something like that, like aim point shoots, where I I'm going to get that wrong. But where it's basically like you're just like you see something, you're ready, you aim, you shoot, you fire, you're done. Like that's it, and then you figure everything else out later. I have always run my life that well, no, I shouldn't say that. All the good things that have happened in my life have always been that way. That it's just been like I say yes to the thing and then I figure it out. I say, okay, let's do this thing. And then I figure out the steps how to get there. So I said yes to, okay, I'm going to just do this because my heart was just like, okay, you have to do this. And then I was like, okay. And I signed up immediately. Like immediately. I asked Heather only because I had to sign up under a team. I wanted to make sure I could sign up under her team. I immediately reached out to Heather, asked her if she needed somebody on the team, and then I signed up. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I don't actually know what rappelling is. I didn't really understand it. So maybe a week goes by. I immediately go into fundraising mode, and I'm like, okay, I just have to raise the money because without raising the money, I can't do this anyway. So why bother worrying about something that may never happen, right? But I just had it fixated that I am going to raise this $1,500. So I go ahead and I keep doing it and I'm telling people and I keep saying I am petrified of heights. And it wasn't until maybe a week into this that I said, why do you keep saying that? Because if you keep identifying as being afraid of heights, it's only going to make it worse. It's only going to make it, your body always wants to stay congruent with what you believe. Always. That's the way that it works. So if you say that you're afraid of heights, you will be afraid of heights, even if you have proven time and time again that you do things that are scary with relation to heights, you will always feel that way because your body always wants to prove you right. It's so nice that way. Okay, so just a little aside right now. And if you guys are listening to this in the audio version, please bear with us and come over live next week because this makes way more sense when you see the comments come up. So it really is conversation style. It is not podcast talk show style. Okay, so Pop says, always been the one to jump in the deep end before thinking if I can swim or not. Yes, I can. Just an example. Okay, yes. So that's a perfect example. And I have been that way a lot. But then I still have these fears. So he says, when I was 11 years old, I climbed a fence and went to a radio tower just to say I've climbed that high. What? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Climb the tower. I got it. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's fascinating. Um, by the way, can you guys hear my dog? Like, do I need to go stop my dog or is this microphone pretty good that it's closing all that up? Fingers crossed. Um, okay. So Pop says, nope. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Cause she is going nuts. Okay. So mindfulness. So now I am okay, let's fast forward to 2 days before the rappel, okay? So the rappel's on Saturday. This is Thursday night. And we get this oh, hold on one second. Oh, Mel's Manny's, your phone's back. Wonderful. So Mel says, fear of spiders. Don't like anything crawling on me. I can kill a rattlesnake barefoot, but nope, spiders. Isn't that fascinating? They're like, are you so I've had a thing for spiders too, and it doesn't have to be those like big, huge, gross, furry ones. It can just be like a regular spider, like a little tiny spider, and I'm still like going crazy. Yes, me too. But it's so okay. So I'm gonna get into quite a few of these things. It's all of this whole experience has been so fascinating for me. Okay. So, and if you guys have any questions as I'm going, like always, just interrupt me and just be like, hey, what about this? Okay. So it's Thursday night, and we get this email from the foundation that says, "Hey, um, make sure that you sign up for this portal kind of thing because after the jump or after the rappel, you're going to be able to get your photos, but you have to be signed in." Okay, that's fine. So I sign in, I go do this, and then now I'm like, oh, the company's called Over the Edge. And I get this bright idea that, oh, I'm going to go on their Instagram and I'm going to go and see what they've done. And maybe I can see other people and what they've done. Cause up until this point, I hadn't really looked into what rappelling was. I researched it a little bit, and the only thing that I researched was, can I rappel down a building with a torn rotator cuff? This is my only question because I was like, I had already signed up, and then I was like, shoot, am I going to be like hindered that I'm not going to be able to move my arm and not be able to do this? So once I got the answer that you can do it, then that was it. I didn't watch any more videos. I didn't really do any more research. I was like, I'm just going to stay focused on the fundraising. So okay, so Rose says, "I would have researched before committing." Okay. So, yeah. And now do you have any fears? Are there fears that you have that you're aware of anyway? Um, so yeah, I do not do that. I kind of jump in and then I ask questions later. And it is always boasted well for or whatever, boded well, is that what the saying is? Um, because I also use my instinct. So it's not like I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there looks like there's a murderer down there. I'm going to go and be friends with him." Like I use my internal compass, and this just seemed like something that I wanted to do. So Rohan says, "You're more adventurous and maybe I should work on being better in that." It's something to explore. It really, really is. So this campaign was called Show Us You're Brave, and I didn't really I was like, "Okay, yeah, like, all of the cancer survivors that are there, they're the ones that are showing they're brave because they have been thrown into something that they can't get out of. This is not like, "Oh, nope, I am choosing not to go through cancer treatment. Nope, I have decided that I am not doing that." So, it's brave that they have to take on this feat and try their best to get through it because their mindset is going to be a big part of their recovery. Is going to be a big part of them getting through. You've heard that a million times that research shows that your mindset will I mean, it will not necessarily 100% cure you. However, you can kill yourself with thoughts that if you think you're ready to go, you're ready to go. And so that bravery to be able to withstand everything that they have to go through, um and I just think like I think of my grandma and I think of my cousins, like I think of everybody that I know personally that had to go through the journey with cancer. It's I don't know about you, but it's become so it's not like a it's not like a I don't know how to explain it. Like with Crohn's, so my community, we all know what you deal with when you're dealing with Crohn's because we all talk about it all the time. But in general, what happens is when people get diagnosed with Crohn's, they think they're the only ones because nobody on the outside world is really talking about it. And so they think they're the only one. They're scared. They don't see, oh my gosh, is this normal kind of thing. Where cancer now has become, and thank God, and I wish this would happen with mental illness. I wish this would happen with Crohn's, with all these other diseases. But people talk about it so much, and there's so much money behind it and so much awareness behind it that you can almost see, like, okay, I know what you're going to be going through because I've heard stories, I've seen stories, I know the people. My guess is that you do know somebody that has Crohn's or colitis, even if you don't know that you know somebody that has Crohn's and colitis. However, if you knew somebody that has cancer, they are more open now to be able to say, I have cancer. And you immediately know, okay, so what is your treatment plan? Like we're all accustomed to the whole thing. Um, but with all these other, mental illness, and Crohn's and colitis and autoimmune and all these kinds of things, nobody's talking about all of it. And so it's like, oh my gosh, everything's everything's different. Like, how do you handle it? So, with cancer, I think it's one of the benefits is that people do not feel as alone. They have foundations and centers and things like that that they can go to, but it is still brave that they are going through um, the treatments and the prolonged treatments and still trying to be there for themselves to get themselves through and then also for their family. And I just can't imagine. So, anyway, that's a long way around of just saying that when people were saying, I guess it was Rogue because you said you're adventurous. When people are saying you're so brave, Leanne, that you're doing this, or you're so adventurous, like you said, I didn't look at it that way. I was like, "No, I'm doing this A for the cause and B for me to get over my fear," but I didn't look at it as bravery. I just looked at it as the next step in my kind of evolution of trying to be the best version of me, um, and not really to prove to anybody else. I really wanted to prove it to me. So, Pop says, "Actually, my uncle declined treatment for cancer so that he would not cut into the finances of his wife's remaining years." Oh wow. Oh my god. And I'm assuming that he's no longer with us. Britt, I'm so sorry. And what a man. Wow. That is brave. Could you even I couldn't even imagine. I just can't imagine, Britt. Oh, I'm so sorry. But that's fascinating. That right there is bravery. That right there is and that's a whole nother topic. Um Pop says, "No, it was about 4 years ago." I am so sorry, Britt. I'm really, really sorry. Um, it's the whole other topic about medical in America. Like, we are so blessed here, even though not everything is covered and prescriptions and yes, chemo treatments can be expensive for Canadians, but there's a lot that's covered. I am so grateful for that because I just couldn't even imagine having to make the decision of, am I going to be able to take care of my wife or me? Wow, that is something. So Mel says, I just found out 3 years ago that my youngest had a fear of heights. Found out when we flew to Florida and he didn't want the window seat. My dad was always his security blanket. He conquered it when we rode Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Studios. That's awesome. Congratulations. Okay, so that is really cool. Now, here's my question. You're saying that he conquered it. Did he conquer it or does he still have issues with heights? So, the reason why I ask is because when I came down from there, I was like, I conquered my fear. I did it. And then Mike the next day was like, honey, you do know that you didn't necessarily conquer it, right? Like he was so proud of me. He was the first one that came to me when I got down. Like he's amazing. But he was like, that's not always the way that it goes. So I don't want you to be upset if you find out that you haven't conquered it, but you did. That was a big step in the way of being able, oh, excuse me, to be able to handle it. And I was like, no, I think I conquered it. And then remind me to tell you a story about Tuesday where I realized, no, I did not conquer it. So Mel says he immediately wanted to ride the Hulk ride. Okay. So now here is what I'm learning, and here is what is fascinating about that is that when I came down, I had so much dopamine rush, endorphins rush, serotonin, like everything was like shooting out of me. Like you could probably see rainbows. In fact, my friend that was there, she was like, I hope you got really good pictures, Leanne, because your eyes were like glowing. You could see the dopamine coming out of your eyes. It was fascinating to see. She says, I've never seen you that bright and that like glistening from being that proud. And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I could bungee jump. Like if there was then a, hey, you can have 50% off bungee jumping off of the bridge, I probably would have been like, hey, let's go do that right now because of the adrenaline and everything that was happening. But then on Tuesday, I will explain that in a moment. But I want to go back. Well, who cares? Welcome to Leanne. So I'll stay there and hopefully I can get back to where I was before. We'll see. Tuesday. So now I have done this rappel, right? And you guys, I had so many friends that came to support me. I had family there and friends, and it was just like it was so magical to see the people that showed up that were just like it was hot, 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 uncomfortable, and I was like, "You guys don't have to come," like but I had some of my closest friends come, and it was so beautiful to be, like, able to celebrate something like that with them, and I've never been one I don't celebrate my birthdays, I'm not one to, like, host anything. When Mike and I get married, like, when we have our wedding, I don't wanna really be the bride. I've never really liked any of that, but I'll tell you, it sure did feel special to have people there that you could just enjoy that moment with. Um, so thank you. If you guys are listening, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, quite a few of those people I walk with on Tuesday mornings. So, we do a community walk. If you're listening to this and you're in Windsor, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do a community walk from 6:30 to 7:30. It's totally free. The only thing that you have to pay is not snoozing your alarm and getting your booty out to the park that we go to. So, anyway, so Tuesday Tuesday, we're doing this walk, and it's down by the water, and it's just like a straight like, Windsor is not we don't have any heights or mountains or hills or anything really. We have a couple hills man-made that were on a dump, but anyway. Um, so we're walking down, and we walk half an hour up and half an hour back, so it's an hour walk, and we're coming back, and one of my friends, Patrick, that was with me, we walked by on the trail, there's, like, these they're not cinder blocks, but they look like cinder blocks kinda thing that make this, like, garden wall, and it steps up. So you've got, I don't know, a few feet, at, like, 2 feet high, and then you've got a few feet at 3 feet high, and then like, the middle part is 4 foot high, let's say. And so it makes this kinda step design, and so Patrick was like, "Do you think you conquered your fear?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "You wanna try to walk that fencing, that wall?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I get up on the second, like, the 2-foot high one, which is not high, right? I get up there and immediately everything start rushing again. That I'm high up, I'm nervous. Now, to the left of me is the 2-foot drop, the 3-foot drop, the 4-foot drop, but the right side of me is all flower beds. So there's no drop. Like I could just walk into the flower beds and I'd be okay. But your mind is like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so high." And one of the things that I've always told me is um, when it comes to my heights, I've always said, if and I'm the opposite of many people that have a fear of heights. I've always said that if I am in control of my heights, I'm frightened. But if I'm not in control, have at it. So I love flying. Like I love traveling. And so as soon as I get on the plane, I feel like vacation has begun. I love it. I love the experience of it. I love looking out the window. I love all of it. But I have kind of given myself over to the flight attendants and the pilot and the manufacturer of the plane, all of it, that if it is my time to go, it's my time to go. That's the way that I look at it. There's nothing that I could do. I paid my ticket, I put my seatbelt on. I've done everything that I am been told to do, and now I have no control. So if the good Lord wants me, then it's my time to go. And that's the way I look at it. And so I enjoy the moment. I'm in the moment. Um, Same thing with roller coasters. Roller coasters I used to be petrified of, and now I can get in the very front of the scariest roller coaster, because I like pushing myself. I like scaring myself. I like being able to do things that are hard. So I really enjoy that. No, that's a lie. I don't enjoy it, but I love the feeling after I have accomplished that. So, but even with the roller coaster, you'll see me if you've ever been on a roller coaster with me, you know that I'm like, putting the straps down and the harness in and like tightening everything up and making sure that like everything's as tight as it can go. And so I do everything that I'm supposed to do. And then I make sure that the person that's checking me, like, did you want me to do anything else? And no, you're good. And they do their little check. And then once they do their little check, I'm like, okay, there's nothing I can do now. If it is my time to go, it's my time to go. But and now this is not rational at all. because getting on a chair to change a light bulb, there's no real danger in that. But in my head, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, if I lose my balance, then I fall and I hit my head on the countertop and oh my gosh, then I could like die, blah, blah, blah." Like these are the things that go through my head. So I get this fear because I am in control. And I think a lot of it has to do with me not feeling good enough. And that is something that I'm going to be working on with my therapist. You guys know I've just started and there's a lot of work for us to do. And that is one of my things that I do not feel good enough in the majority of things that I do. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it's okay because I'm going to be working on it. But I think that is part of it. That like, oh my gosh, what if I made a mistake? If I made a mistake and died because of it, and then I'm leaving people, it's this whole thing. So that's why this rappelling was really important to me because I kind of was in control. Now it was super, super safe. I didn't realize how safe it was. I mean, they double, triple, quadruple check everything. So it's really, really a well organized. If you guys ever have the opportunity to do anything fundraising wise with Over the Edge, the company, like do it. They are top notch. And Kevin, oh my gosh, if you're listening to this, I doubt you are, but if you are, oh my gosh, thank you. You were my angel. Okay, so I have left a lot of loose ends and we're going to get back to hopefully some of them. But I'm going to go through a couple of the comments that are here. So Mel says dopamine, true. Yes, so that's when we were talking about your son. So I'm curious if he had so with my wall that I did, fear set in at the 2 foot and I like could not get up to the 3rd foot. I had to like start talking to myself and like, "Oh my gosh, okay, you can do this." And then my friend Patrick, he's like he's the sweetest guy even though like he doesn't want me saying that, but he is. So Patrick, thank you. Um he reached up and I could like hold his hand. Now he was too far down for me to actually hold his hand. So we were just kind of like touching fingertips, but I knew that I had contact with somebody other than me. And that immediately made me feel like I can do this. So thank you, Patrick. And I got up to the 4 foot and then came back down 3 foot, 2 feet, and I was off. And I did it, but it was still hard for me, even though what was funny is I was looking at the building that 3 days prior I had rappelled down from. And I'm looking at that and like, that is so high. And I did it. And yet this is still hard. So that's why, Mel, I was curious if your son had anything later that he had to deal with heights that he was like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I don't have a problem anymore. I'm totally fine. Or if it still did have lingering things that he has to deal with. But what I was talking to a girlfriend, I was out to lunch with one of my girlfriends today. And we were talking about it. She's like, so what are some of the like biggest takeaways that you had from, that experience? And Marla, I just love you. Like your questions are so sweet. So we were talking about it and oh my gosh, am I going to lose my train of thought? Yeah, I think oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Um, oh, she asked me the same similar question. Do you find that you have now conquered your fear of heights, or do you think that you're still going to have problems? And I said, I know that I will still have problems because I've encountered it now. However, the difference is that my mindset, I now know because I have proof that I can do hard things, especially when they come with to heights. I can do hard things. So even though I may still have that fear that comes over me, I can do the things. So that was one of my big takeaways, and having that mindset and that ability to know that anything that I have done up until this point, I've I've made it through, right? We're still here. If you're watching this, you're still here. You're still alive. So anything that has been you thought was going to take you out, it has not. So we're a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for. So Britt says, so you can strap into a roller coaster, but not a race car because you're in control. Okay, yes, correct. So this is what is also fascinating. So roller coaster, that's because of the heights. The speed is not what scares me. It's the heights that scare me. That you know, that whatever the noise is when you're going up the roller coaster, like, kill me now. Like that noise scares the bejesus out of me because I'm just looking at the horizon of like all of these little people on the street. Like that's what scares me. It's not the speed. I love speed. And so now a race car, I have never driven a race car. It it would scare me because I'm in control and I could screw something up. But I think it would scare me more if somebody was in the car with me. But if it was just me in the car and I didn't have control, but I was able to go and not have to worry about like heights or anything like that, I think I would actually really enjoy it because I didn't drag race. There wasn't like an official, like, Fast and the Furious kind of thing. But I used to have a faster car when I first got my license. And, I was just like this, cute young girl, whatever. And so guys, whenever we'd be stop at the lights, they would be like trying to rev their engine because, they're like, "Oh, look how I'm cool. I'm a 17-year-old, whatever." And so then I would always like race them down our like main drags and I would always win because I really knew how to take care of my car. And also I think it was also because they were kind of like stunned that it was happening, but I loved speed and I loved being in a car. Now, if I was with a passenger, I drove very differently. I didn't speed the way I did when I was by myself because I didn't want to be in control, lose control and hurt somebody else, even though I know that you guys are going to be saying, "Well, you could have hurt somebody on the street." I get it. I was relatively safe. Um but that's where my mindset goes. Now, nothing has to be rational. We can have all of these like screwed up things because I know as I'm saying everything that I just said to you, there's loopholes and like problems in that story all over the place. But isn't that what life is all about? It's like it doesn't have to necessarily make sense. It just made sense to me of what scared me and what didn't scare me. Um okay, so Rohan says, "No, don't leave us. You're too precious." You're so sweet. Yes, so that's one of the things, like, I never really I didn't do anything intentionally to leave because I also had a very big thing about, like, "Oh my gosh, I have so many loose ends that I have never, like, wrapped up at the computer, at work, at things." So that was always my only fear of dying. You guys are learning so much about my inner psyche. My only fear of dying, because I do not have a fear of dying. I mean, I don't have a fear. I really don't wanna suffer. Um, but I don't really have a fear of dying. If I die, I die. It's fine. Um, and the thing that I really don't want to die is that I have so many loose ends that, like, my files on my computer are so, like, scattered. I have so many, like, things in my office that are just, like, not in my business office, but in my personal, like, filing system kinda thing that's not organized that, like that's my biggest fear of dying is that, like, oh, what I will leave the people that are behind me, my parents and Mike, and that's my big thing. So anyway, that was a total aside. Let's keep going. So, Fritz says, "Oh, no, you can't leave out the car." What was it? Oh, okay. So all it was so now you have to understand that this was in 1996, 97, because now they have changed the car drastically and it was not a manual, so it wasn't that cool. Um, but the car was a Sebring, okay? And I know that now if you're comparing it to the Sebring that it is now, it's like big deal, right? I mean, if you have a Sebring, it's a nice car. It's nice. But they switched over at some point. I don't know if it was in 2000 or whatever it was. They changed the model that now it is just like they had the 200, the Sebring, the all of these different things. They all looked alike. They were just different tiers. However, back in the 90s, the Sebring was like a low profile. So we were like, I would like bottom out if I ended up like coming off even just like a like parking lot that had a little bit of an incline. Like that front end was so low. And so my car, the chassis was so low to the ground that I would be able to like make turns going at speeds that I shouldn't be making the turns. Like it was a really good car, or I just got really lucky. I don't know. But I've always loved speed. I remember I don't do this anymore. So again, welcome to my living room where we just go off track. Um, I used to get so many speeding tickets. And this is not something I'm proud of. And this is not, if you're listening to this and you're a driver, especially if you're a young driver, do not listen to this and take I need to do it because Leanne did it. This was dumb. But I used to get so many speeding tickets that I would go and I got out of a lot of them. And so I had a very innocent kind of look and I had stories that I would tell about anyway. Okay, so I'm not going to get into all this, but I got out of quite a few tickets. However, there was a streak that I got 3 tickets. I think it was like in 3 months or something like that. First one, I went in and first one I got let off of. Second one, I had to go to court, so I didn't pay the ticket. I said, "I'm gonna go to court and I'm gonna fight this," 'cause I didn't want the demerit points off. So I went to the court but I had already been to the court in the past year, maybe like 2 other ti 2 other times. So when I came for the 3rd time that I had that ticket, I came to fight it, and there's like a guy in the beginning before you go to the court, he's like goes through all the stuff. He was like He's like, "If I see you one more time in here, I am not only gonna not have you go to the court, I am going to make sure that you pay in full with all the demerit points, everything." He says, "You can't keep coming and just fighting these." Like, he scared the bejesus out of me. And since then, knock on wood, I have never gotten a speeding ticket again. My trick is I use cruise control now all the time, and I keep it at a certain, like, above the speed limit where I know that you won't get caught, and I cruise control everywhere I go because I'm, like, so frightened of getting pulled over now because I have no get out of jail free card anymore. Anyway, so that was me. I've always loved speed, so that was a total aside. Rohan says, "Who's taking notes? Windsor Police sure ain't." Yeah, well, with all the cameras now too, that's what's really getting me. I'm just like, "Oh man, I gotta be a good driver." Mind you, I don't understand why people are not getting pulled over for how slow they go. Okay? I'm just saying. Okay, let's move on. Let's go back to our mindfulness when we're in intense fear, like when we're right in the height of it. So the video, if you guys, you're over in the friendly show, I posted it there. And I had a friend, so Patrick, that was there. He posted a video the day of, but it was a photo of me rappelling. It was a photo of I'm already a little bit down the building, and he started shooting, and I think it was like the sun was like the way that it was really hard to get an image. So he was like trying to get it. And by the time he got it, I was already doing the rappelling. Okay. So that video was like maybe 4 or 5 minutes or something, or let's say it's 5 minutes. Okay. So Mike, my hubby, he sent a video to like our friends and family of the whole thing, the time that they said, and Leanne Hello is, up next. And uh, before I went to the edge, before I came over the edge, there is a good 5.5 minutes where I'm not going down. There was a couple minutes before you even see my body because at one point Mike's like, "I don't think that's her. I think that's a dude." And it was. It was the guy that I was doing it with, Jeremy. He was already over the edge. He was already there, but they had called my name because I should have been there. But I was so afraid. So you had to get on, you weren't just on the roof of this building. They had scaffolding, so you had to get higher, which I still don't really understand why that had to happen, but you had to walk up scaffolding and go across this big platform, and as soon as I stepped on the steps to go up the scaffolding, everything changed for me. I rewind while we were on the roof waiting. Jeremy, the guy that I was with, he went over the edge and like looked over the roof to see like how high it was, whatever. And oh my gosh. And he looked and he was like, "Oh, it's not bad." And I was like, "I don't know if that's a good idea for me to do it." And then this other, I think it was Heather and Meg, they went and did it and they were like, "Oh, that's not bad." Like, oh, so I went and did it. I went and looked, and immediately I started like tearing up and crying. And then I stopped myself from crying because I was like, no, don't cry now. Like, you're okay. We can get through this. Although you guys know that I'm a big like proponent of if you feel like you need to cry, cry because it gets the cortisol out. I should have probably cried more. But anyway, what I realized was the Meg and Heather couldn't see down because they weren't tall enough. So all they saw was the water. It was on the water, but there was like the building, the street, a park, and then the water. So when they were looking, they were just looking out to the water. That was fine. But what I saw was how little the people were down there, and it totally like messed with me. So then I was like, I regrouped, and then I just started like telling jokes and like just having fun being in the moment. I was really mindful about where I was and who was with me, and I was cheering the other people on that were going down, and everything was great. Like, I was just in the moment. I wasn't thinking about what was about to happen, just in the moment. So that helped a lot. And then I got up on the scaffolding and I started climbing up the scaffolding. And then Kevin, who was he was the guy that was going to be like strapping me in one last time. And he's like, "Can you come here?" And I was like, "I don't think so. I don't know if my legs will get me there." And everything started rushing. So then I ended up getting there and I turned my body. So now my back is to like the drop. And he's like, "Okay, just keep inching and I will tell you when to stop." He's like, "You're just going to go until your heels are no longer on the floor." That's not helpful. Okay. So he's telling me, "This is taking me 2-3 minutes, you guys, to go through this." So then I'm there and I'm at the edge and now I have to climb down the scaffolding, just like two kind of steps. And then I have to go down the building. And my legs aren't working. I'm petrified. And this is where the mindfulness came in. That was fascinating to me. Like, he was so good. So, Kevin, you are seriously my angel. So, and what was really cool, you guys, like total asides, I hope this is not boring any of you guys, but total aside, there was this other guy who I'm sure was just as good, maybe. Um, But Kevin, he was at another area, like, we were in, the 10th floor. There was, like, this holding room where you got all, like, strapped up and you got a little bit of training and all that kinda stuff, and then we went up to the 14th floor and then went to the roof. So, Kevin, this guy that was, like, part of the crew, he was there with us during the, like, strapping in, and he was just really good. And then he ended up coming up to the when I was at the scaffolding, he was there, and this other guy that was in his position at the front, like that would be helping me down. He was like, "Hey, are you busy right now?" And now Kevin's right next to me, and this is me, and he says, "Are you busy right now?" I said, "No, I don't got much going on. What do you need?" And I thought that was funny. Obviously, he wasn't talking to me. Well, the guy's like, "I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Kevin." I was like, "Oh, dear. I'm so sorry." So then Jeremy next to me, he laughs and he goes, "I thought it was pretty funny." He's like, "We're just kind of hanging out." So anyway, so this is my experience with this guy. He's like, "Can you come up here and help us out?" Whatever. And so Kevin's like, "Of course, I'm here to help." So he comes up there. Now they're all like talking and whispering and all this kind of stuff. So now I'm freaking out because I'm like, "You're playing around with my ropes. Like, what is happening?" And then this guy that has no joking personality, goes down the scaffolding and is ready to walk by me. And I said, "Excuse me, um, is my rope okay?" And he's like, "100%." Like, he's just, and I was like, what's happening then?" He's like, "I just have to pee and I needed Kevin just to come up and take my spot." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I'm petrified. I'm like, what the hell is happening? So anyway, he leaves. Well, Kevin turns out that was the universe, Mary, God, whoever that put him there. Because if I would have had the other guy, I don't know. I'd like to say that I could have still gone down the rappel. I don't know if I would have been able to because it was so effing hard, you guys, for me to get to the edge. But what Kevin did, and this is like we'll kind of start wrapping up because it's already an hour, but what he did was just magic. And so he straps me in and he's explaining to me like, "Okay, I want you to feel how tight this is. Like you're not going anywhere, okay? This is not going anywhere." And he like hooks me in. And he's like, "We're just going to get you just a little bit past the edge, okay? And we're going to be okay." And I was like, "Okay, okay. I'm okay. I can do this. I can do this." And I keep saying this, but like my legs aren't moving. I'm not moving. He's like, "Okay, can we get back just one step, one step?" And then he goes, "Lee, I want you to look me in my eye. You don't look down. You don't look to the sides. You don't look anywhere else. You just look me in my eye. I am here with you. It's just me and you. That's it. We're okay. Do you feel safe? Are you okay?" I was like, "Yes, yes, okay, I am." And I was completely present with him in that moment. So then he was like, "Okay, can you step back just one step?" And I said, "Yes, I can do that." And so I'm looking at him and I'm stepping back and he's like, "How about now? Can you just go one more? We're just almost there." And it went from me not knowing that I'm going to be able to do this to I can do this with support. So now I'm having support and he's like, "You can hold on to me. You can hold on to my," and then I gave him a hug. I was like, "Can I hug you before we do all of this?" So I hugged him and he's like, "Of course, I love hugs." And like, it was heart to heart that I was just like, "Okay." And I took a deep breath and I was like, "Okay, we can do this." And I'm going to post a picture in the Friendly Show tonight or tomorrow because we just got all the photos. And there is a photo of just me staring at Kevin and Kevin just staring back at me. And that's what got me to do the one step in front of the other and then just the next step in front of the other. And that's all that it was. But that took a good 5-6 minutes of an experience to get to. And now there were other people that were rappelling that were like dancing on the wall, like they were having a great time and all this kind of stuff. And I thought that looks really good for showmanship. That looks really good for like people to be like, "Oh, this was so cool. Like you're awesome," whatever. And I'm not taking anything away from them. It really was awesome. Like, hey, it's super cool if you can just like fly down there and it's just like a fun experience. But the reason why I posted, even though Patrick had already posted me rappelling, doing the actual thing, the reason why I posted then a longer video, the one that Mike took, was because I think that first 6 minutes, even though you don't even see anything, even though I have not changed my position longer than a foot, like I was within 12 inches the entire time of those 6 minutes, the lengths that my mind went and that being in the moment changed everything. That's what we need to be looking at. That's what, whether we're fighting our fear of heights or Mel spiders, um, just being adventurous in general, Rohan. If we're fighting our thoughts, Britt, if we're fighting any of this stuff, that is why mindfulness will trump everything else. If we can be in this moment right here, this is the only moment that we have, and try to make that as positive as we can. And not just Pollyanna, like, "Oh my gosh, it's rainbows and butterflies." Just what it is. That seeing what's in front of us, seeing Kevin's eyes, just being in that moment, that's what changes everything. And that's what allows us to take that next best step. Next best step in our health, in our business, in our relationships, in that uncomfortable conversation, in any of the things that we have to do. That is where I really found that mindfulness really is the cornerstone of us being able to find our best self, for us to be able to find joy, for us to be able to find all the things that we're searching for. because they're all right here. They're all right within us. So it was a really, really special experience. And I don't think you need to rappel off a building, but you do need to start, you guys. We all need to start doing things that scare us. And it does not have to be bungee jumping. It doesn't have to be anything like that's super dangerous, but like this is going to sound really silly, but a cold freaking shower, like at the end of your shower, just crank it to the coldest that it can go. Um it's going to be scary, but showing ourselves that we are stronger than we think, it changes everything. It changes everything. The other mindset piece that I had, the other shift, and I don't know if I talked about it in the beginning of the show. I don't think I did. Was that when I watched those videos from Over the Edge and I was watching people shoot, like, here it is, I'm going down and I'm going to be down 15 stories and this is what it looks like. Um, I got so scared and I was sitting in this chair in this room on this computer. Um, and it felt like I was on the roof. I was watching that video and I felt like I was on the roof and I was like having a hard time breathing. My mouth was getting dry. My heart was going like crazy. And in the moment, I started crying and everything was like, Mike even video messaged me at that moment. Like it was just, there was no reason. I didn't text him or anything. He just called me and he was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on? What's wrong? Are you crying?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I feel like I was just on the roof." And the next day, I didn't realize this epiphany. Like I was telling you guys, there was like so many epiphanies that I had, but I didn't have this until the next day. And the next day, so now it's Friday, I realized, holy shit, I was as scared as I will be when I'm on that edge, when I'm on that wall. I was just as scared sitting in my chair. And so if I can be that scared when there is nothing dangerous around me, that I'm in my comfortable home on my comfortable chair with my feet planted on the ground, and I can be that scared, then that saying, and I've said it before, that fear is false evidence appearing real. I've said it a million times. I've written it out for people. I've explained it, rationalized it. It wasn't until that moment that I had the epiphany that, holy shit, fear really is false evidence appearing real. Because now I have evidence that I am not afraid of heights, that I can do hard things, that I can go down the wall. I can go and climb the wall. I can go and do these things. Um, but our brain won't let us take that in sometimes. And especially if we've always had this fear and we've always attached I am to that phobia, we're creating an identity around that phobia where throughout those 2 weeks, I felt the need to tell everybody the story about, I can't even stand on a stool and change a light bulb. I'm that scared of heights. Like for some reason, I identified with being afraid of heights that I needed to keep telling that story. And it wasn't until the day before that I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to tell the story anymore about being afraid of heights because it's just my body is going to try to make me right. And I don't want to have this fear anymore. So, mindfulness and being aware of what we're thinking, what we're saying, how we're being in that moment is everything. Um, Pops says, "What's the purpose of the cold shower?" Well, in this example, what I'm saying is it's for us to do something that scares us. So, if a cold shower doesn't scare you, then it's not going to do anything. I mean, it will do something for you, and I'll explain that in a minute. Um, But if it's not gonna scare you, then it's not gonna do anything for you in this realm. But they talk a lot about, there is that part of the brain, and I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, there's a part of the brain, oops, that, they've just been discovering in the last couple of years that will actually grow the more that you do things that you don't want to do. So if you actually, like, would love a cold shower, it's not gonna increase this part of your brain. But if you don't enjoy a cold shower and you do it anyway, this part of your brain increases and it makes it you're able to access the ability to be able to do hard things more so than the people that always want to be in comfort. And so that's why I think having a cold shower, if it scares you, if it's something that doesn't make you like bring you joy or you're like, "Oh, I love it, so refreshing." Um, it's a very easy thing to prove to yourself that A, you can keep your promise to yourself if you said, "Okay, today I'm going to do the cold shower at the end." Now that you've said that to yourself, follow through and do it even though it's hard. There's all of that mindset piece that goes around it. The reason why I started doing the cold showers over a decade ago was I ended up being allergic to it was my second allergic attack for penicillin. Before it was not penicillin, it was another antibiotic. And then I had penicillin for something and I ended up going into anaphylactic shock. And so now there's like almost no antibiotic that I can have that I don't need an EpiPen for or should be at an emergency room in order to take. So I started researching how can I increase my immune system because I was like, this is freaking scary. So I really try to increase my immune system, and that is one of the ways to do that. So getting in a shower and making sure that all your lymph nodes, like all here and under your chest and your underarms and on the side of your arms and stuff, if you can get that in the cold and like shock it, then your immune system will kind of like jolt into becoming alive, so to speak. And so that's the reason why I started doing cold showers, but then it has all these other benefits too. Um, so Britt says, I'm allergic to penicillin as well. Hey, there we go. We're twinsies. Don't you wish that we were twinsies over something else? Yeah, so scary. Scary. I mean, it's not fun, but it just gives us reason to like try to keep our health in check a little bit more, right? So, um, okay. So that was like really, really long-winded. I hope it wasn't like too boring for you guys, but you guys are still here, which is awesome. Um, Oh, interesting. Britt says I'm also allergic to alcohol. Like all alcohol? That's great. I mean, yeah, I don't drink alcohol. I did when I was in my 20s. I did, and I don't think I really had a problem, but I really enjoyed it. And when I was working at the advertising agency, we really enjoyed it. Um, so I did a lot, but now like I would say probably in the last 15 years, I've probably had 3 drinks. So it's funny, I know a lot of people would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're allergic to alcohol? Poor you." But I was like, "I don't know. I don't miss it at all." Um, but that's not to say that maybe you do miss it because you're allergic and you can't have it. I don't know. How do you feel about that? So, anywho, you guys, I love you so much. I love you, love you, love you. I am going to be kind of polling you guys in the group for what we want our topic to be, like our theme to be next month, July. I have a couple ideas. I'll throw them out there. You guys can like vote on it and then or if you have other ideas that you want to kind of have as the theme, then we'll kind of figure it out. Um, so Britt says, yes, can't use certain deodorants or mouthwash. Oh, so all alcohol. Okay. That's interesting. Um, See, now I have more to say about deodorant and mouthwash, but I'm gonna let that go for right now because now we're already an hour and 15 minutes and we could be here for 14 hours and I would still be like, one more thing. So anyway, if you guys are watching this or listening to this in the audio, and you tuned in halfway and didn't hear the thing in the beginning, please join us over on YouTube or Twitch, The Friendly Show, on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, or whatever the conversion is for you. We would love to have you as part of the show. I bring comments up just as we've been doing it with Ro and Britt and Mel. And I would love, love, love to have you. If you have friends that you think would benefit from anything that we've been talking about in this show, please share the episodes with them. And if you are on YouTube, you can subscribe and then you'll be notified when I come on, or you have to hit a bell or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm learning all this stuff. It's really exciting. So anyway, I love you guys so, so much. One more comment from Britt. The 2 wonder drugs of our generation I'm allergic to. Yeah, well, penicillin for sure, but alcohol, isn't that funny? Like I never really thought about how much we use alcohol for more than just drinking. Um, Interesting. Anyway, you guys, Britt, Mel, Ro, thank you so much for being here and being a part of the conversation. Make sure that if you are on Facebook, you come on over to the Friendly Show. It is a private group, but I'll let you in. I just want to make sure that there's no bots in there. That's what the whole point of it being private. Um, and so, I try to go live in there a couple times throughout the week. And I really want to be having more conversations inside of there about all the things with a lens of happiness, but all the things that we're all dealing with. And I just want you to know that you always have a friend in me and in many of the people that are in that group. It's a really, really cool community. So I love you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Canadians, happy Canada Day on Monday. And Americans, I'll see you on Wednesday before your big shindig. Okay, love you, love you. And let's see, Britt says, laters, be good, have fun storming the castle. And Mel says, love you. I love you guys so much. I love you, love you, love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye.